The way I blend into this pillow.
Oh my God, you kind of do. Legit. I think you should take the flannel off and show your tits. Just what do I
show my tits? I don't, I'm not there.
Okay. So I suggest it. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
You and everybody else.
I'm always going to be the friend who's like, show more skin.
This is the thing that like used to get me in trouble as a kid though. So I'm very I cover up a lot.
What did you just show me? What did you just show me? What did it say? What did it say?
Hold on. Breaking the pattern requires you to make a different choice.
Show your tits.
Show your tits. Show your tits.
Free the nipple. Free the nipple.
Listen.
Make a different choice.
Listen, Linda.
I'm just saying, that's what you grew up with?
They're showing a little bit. They're showing enough.
Show it off.
I already made a different choice by not wearing the oversized sweatshirt.
Thank you.
I just put on an oversized cardigan instead.
Yeah.
That's funny. I got too many pillows on me. Okay.
Can I have a gummy?
Yeah, what do you want?
Give me some amanita.
Let's talk about this.
Okay.
We had somebody reach out and say
Thank you.
they ordered some of the Colors gummies, but I think we need to let you guys know the amanita is not something that you want to do a large dose of. This is not the same as psilocybin. The other ones, they don't say psilocybin because they can't. But the ones in the black bottle are the psilocybin, and the pouch that says the double dose. Those are psilocybin.
Yeah.
You like these.
I love amanita.
I prefer these for this type of stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
How did we start talking about it? But we started having a conversation about what people or society may think is a flex, but it's so not a fucking flex.
Mm-hmm.
So you posted something on our stories where you said that, and people could write in their answer, and we could talk about it and elaborate on it. And people had some really good answers for that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it. What are you going to add?
I was going to add something from last episode that we were talking about the tattoo on my face because I remembered the word.
Oh, okay. Can you give a little bit more backstory if people didn't hear that episode?
Yeah. Last week, you asked me if there was a word that I would get tattooed on my head, what would it be and why? And I was blanking on the word. The word is me-phobia. And the definition is the fear of becoming so awesome that the human race can't handle it and everybody dies.
Oh, fuck.
I know, it's a little extreme.
Yeah, that is so extreme.
But I follow a makeup artist who has the tattoo under her eye. It says me-phobia. And I've always wondered what that meant. And I Googled it and I was like, oh, shit. And I think maybe not to the extreme that it's and everybody dies, but it's realizing your own potential and being terrified of it. A lot of people out there are afraid of their own potential.
Fuck yeah.
It's terrifying.
Myself included.
Yeah.
Still.
Same. That was me, being terrified to feel empowered.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my backtrack on last episode. Today, the things that we were talking about, I took screenshots of all the answers because so many people had such good answers. And we had our own list that we wanted to start out with. And the reason that this kept coming up is because I think a lot of people out there are proud to be and self-proclaimed people pleasers.
Yeah.
And this is kind of how this started, is as a recovering people pleaser, as a former people pleaser, and still sometimes fall into those things, those people pleasing patterns. The thing that really helps me not to people please is realizing that it's manipulation.
Well, I was going to bring that up. We've talked about I don't know if it was the last episode we did, but how people pleasing is closer to narcissism than what you think, because it is a form of manipulation and you're using ego.
Yeah. And we are not calling people pleasers narcissists.
No.
That's not what this is. Let me be clear about the whole narcissist thing too. Everybody has narcissistic tendencies and traits. It is our ego. It is the thing that protects us from harm in the world. It's just sometimes people are much deeper in those patterns than others.
Yeah.
And being aware of it is just the first step.
Yes.
So yeah, no, we are not calling people pleasers narcissists, but how many times have we come across like things that are like people pleasers are closer to covert narcissists than they even realize. And I agree with that.
Because you're trying to...
And I used to be that. Right. I was very much the victim in my life and the people pleaser and woe was me and always talking about all the shit that was going on wrong without realizing I played a role in it. That kind of goes with last episode. But anyway, back to the people pleaser thing. The thing that really clicked for me was reading up on it and realizing that by people pleasing, you are manipulating people into liking you, manipulating them into doing things for you. It's like this, well, but I did these things for you. So like, why wouldn't you do these things for me? So there's just a lot of toxicity in people pleasing that, and you go around and you hear people talking about, I'm just a people pleaser. Like, well, stop it.
Right.
Stop being one.
Right. You're aware of it.
Right.
So now what are you going to do about it?
Ask yourself why you're doing it. So this is, I started to make a whole TikTok about this because it's not the flex you think it is. And also before you do something where like somebody comes to you and is like, can you do this for me? Before saying yes, sit with it and ask yourself, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for them? Am I going to regret this later? Am I going to be upset that I said yes to this? Because if the answer is yes to that, then say no.
Yeah.
You are manipulating this person into thinking that you are doing something of service for them when really you're just agitated and angry when you're doing it.
That's something.
And it's going to build up resentment.
That is something I still really, really struggle with.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
So it's really just like sitting with the intention behind why you're doing something before you do it. And are you people pleasing because you want everybody to like you? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. And I think that that's the biggest one that kind of started this whole, like, what else is a flex?
I was going to say, yeah, then we're like, okay, but what else? There's so many things.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Yeah. So people pleasing is the first one. Having a ton of friends. I think we should add that, like, this is not always black and white.
Yes.
And it's just some of the people who sent these things in, like, maybe it's something that they used to think was a flex and now they're realizing it's not. So what are your thoughts on this one, having a ton of friends?
I know I always go back to this, but it's my Roman Empire. But I watched an episode of Vanderpump Rules last night. And there's a girl on there, Sheena Shea. And she has, I think it was 56 people's location that she is tracking of her friends. And her like toxic trait is that she constantly wants to be liked by everybody, which kind of goes into the people pleasing. But because of that, she wants to be popular.
Don't people say like she collects friends?
Yes, and everyone's her best friend and like whatever. And I'm like, okay, first off, you're married, you're a mom, you're a working mom. How in the fuck do you have time to track 56 other people's location and what they're doing?
Don't even think I could name 56 people off the top of my head that I would consider friends.
No.
I have like 5 friends.
Fuck no. Fuck no. Fuck no. I used to be somebody though who did pride herself on being friends with a lot of people.
Yeah, same.
Because I was liked, again, that people pleasing pattern. because I was liked by people. People thought I was fun to talk to.
You were liked by everybody.
Who cool to hang out with, whatever. So, yeah. And then what's interesting is the more work I've done, those friendships have slowly fallen off because they don't accept me for who I am, and I am not going to change myself to appease you.
I was literally just going to say, I think people who have a lot of friends aren't really fully authentic.
Yeah.
They are playing a role or putting on a mask to make sure that everybody likes them. And
Yeah.
I don't like that idea anymore. I used to, and again, like, we're not hating on ourselves here. Like, we used to be those people who wanted everybody to like us. Here's the reality of it. That's impossible to have everybody like you because you don't like everybody. So, like, why would you expect every single person to like you? There are people that you are just not going to vibe with, and that's okay. Like, the energy is just not there, and that's okay.
Right. And also, like, just because you don't align with someone doesn't mean that there has to be beef.
Right. Right.
So, and I know it can maybe sometimes feel that way.
It does, I think, when you are, like, someone who's used to everybody liking you.
Right. Right. Where it doesn't really have to be. And so that's something that I've struggled with is I have disconnected with some people who, you know, I used to party with them. We went to college, did whatever, where it's like, no, we're just in different phases and have different interests and commonalities and beliefs, and that's okay. But I don't want to change who I am because I've, like, recently worked really hard
to find you,
to become this and to find this, and I don't want it to go away. And if you don't accept it or you think it's weird, that is so cool. I'm all good with that. But there doesn't have to be beef with that. Just we've naturally grown apart.
Well, and it's like, I'm not going to put myself in a box to make you feel comfortable anymore.
Yeah.
And I am going to show up me fully.
Yeah,
and I'm okay
weird.
if people don't like that. I'm going to be honest. I used to think people were weird all the time, and now I'm like, oh, I'm the weird one.
Yeah.
It's me.
I went to the park with my son yesterday, and I spent an hour talking to this married couple about mushrooms.
I was just going to say, were you talking about mushrooms?
I was, because it's to the point where I'm like, they may be super religious and they may not be into it, or they're, you know, they still believe the DARE program shit, like, whatever. But I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to have a conversation with you, I don't care what you think. Like, you can leave. That's super cool too. But I'm going to keep talking about it because it's my interest and it's what I like and it's what I feel very passionately about. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I used to have a hard time feeling like I was making someone feel uncomfortable. And now I'm like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's fun. I'm not, like, getting pleasure out of making people uncomfortable. But, like, if it makes you uncomfortable, then, like, I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm not, like, purposely trying to make you feel uncomfortable.
Right. It got brought up organically.
Right.
And
I'm not,
so,
like.
Yeah. Like, and I was just like, well, go with it.
I can,
it's
like,
what you feel.
picture you at the park, like, sitting down next to some random couple and be like, hey, have you heard of mushrooms? You want any? Like, no, that's not what you're doing. I get what you're saying. Like, it, like, comes up in conversation, and I'm not going to fucking, like, act like I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. I've got that projector energy. People just come and talk to me. So I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about.
Right. Okay. So having a ton of friends, well, no, we'll get to it because somebody else posted something else. Being a man. And the way that I'm reading this was a man who sent this in. I saw another one that was like being proud to be the alpha. So I'm reading it like this, like, just be a man, man up.
Oh,
don't cry about it. Like, I think society does this a lot with, like, little boys too. And being a man, what does that mean? Being a man,
right?
It's not the flex that you think it is.
Well, and somehow we've labeled that anger as not an emotion. And most men who have suppressed feelings their entire life grow up and then they have this anger, but they don't think that they are emotional. And I'm like,
If I
Love bug.
had
Anger is emotion, babe.
money for every time I talk to a woman who is married to, dating, in a long-term relationship with a man who says they're too emotional and they're just not that emotional, but they get angry all the time. And I'm like, what do they think that is? The only emotion they show is anger. It's an emotion. They just don't know how to express all the other ones the way you do. And your emotions make them feel really uncomfortable.
And what do we say is behind anger? Grief.
Sadness. There's all kinds of shit underneath anger.
I think anger is just an emotion that they don't realize is an emotion, but an emotion that they feel comfortable with because it's
manly.
Well, and it's kind of they've been conditioned that it's the only emotion that it's okay to show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do have a lot of empathy for men in that way and compassion for men because I do want men like to be able to have all sorts of emotions and it be okay and there not be shame around it.
Yeah.
And so I, as a woman, want to do a better job at being able to hold space for men, which I kind of want to get into that later. But anyways.
We can do a whole episode on that and we absolutely will. Because you're exactly right. The opposite of this, like to me, the opposite, what is a flex is being able to express all the emotions and not be ashamed of them.
Yeah.
And to be able to hold space for other people expressing all the emotions. Like to me, that's a flex.
Yes.
Like a man who can cry and be okay with crying, like that's fucking sexy.
Yeah.
A man who can show, love in different ways. Like, I don't know, like once you get that emotions wheel, like great tool to have, by the way.
I have that as a pillow.
I know I saw that at your house the other day. I've been sitting on my purchase for a while, but that emotions wheel is a big tool for people because it might show up as anger, but that's not what's underneath it. So I'm sure that there's more to that. Like being a man is like such a flex. Like we could take it a little bit deeper and say, we talk about being in your feminine, being in your masculine. A lot of women who are in their masculine think it's a flex. They're like, I don't need a man. I can do this on my own.
I was going to say, I want to add to that.
So take the gender out of it.
Right. To say that it's not a flex where women hate men.
Yeah, that's not a flex.
Yeah. Which I used to kind of be like that. I was like very, very
Is that
scorned.
on our list? Did anybody write that?
I don't know, but
that's a good one.
Yeah, like I think that there are a lot of women who aren't very great at holding space for men.
Yeah.
I think it goes both ways. It's not just one or the other. Like I think men have a lot of, toxicity that they need to decondition from, but so do women.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of just random little things where I'm like, man, the hate and the anger that we have for men is something that we need to heal because those are some wounds where we may be projecting onto the people that didn't cut us in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we hold space for each other. And I feel like that's a really controversial thing to say.
I understand what you're saying. We can even take this back to the Barbie movie and that episode that we did on that and like realizing that like, oh, even men who are angry and hate women, sometimes what they need is a woman who is able to hold space for their grief and their anger and their sadness and whatever it is that they have gone through to make them hate women in the first place. Mm-hmm. Who can like see and acknowledge that this man has probably some really deep-seated mother wounds or father wounds and let's take it back. Like the whole emasculating men thing. It's not cute. It's not cool. So many women are like, but men aren't shit. Men do this and I don't need a man. Well, that's probably the energy that you're putting out. But if you want to be I mean, this could be a whole episode, so I don't want to go too far into it. But if you want to be treated like a queen, then you have got to treat him like a king. There is no like, I'm the princess, that type of stuff. Like my daughter's the fucking princess, but like, you know what I mean? Like, like you can't emasculate him because you think you're better than him. Yeah. And because you think that like, he's not shit.
And I'll just speak from personal experience. I used to do that. Yeah. And because I was very deep in my masculine. And so it was only about me. It was only about my feelings and what I felt and whatever. And it's like, well, Tony, my fiance, he has trauma too. Mm-hmm. He has a past too.
He's got feelings.
There's wounds too. He has feelings too. He has bad days too. Yeah. Like it's not just about, it's about you both. And it's about a partnership together. Mm-hmm. And holding space for each other. And I do see that a lot where a lot of women, it's like, it's me, 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 me. And it's like, yeah, but like shit happened to him too.
Right. Right.
And that's okay. It's important for you guys to both be putting in the work and both be holding space for each other.
100%. 100%. Because I can see my husband as a little boy when he is in his, feels. And it's, but another thing to that, like, I had a friend recently say this to me and I was like, oh my God, she's in her like man-hating phase, and rightfully so. She's been very hurt by men in her life who were very not supposed to be that way. Right. I don't want to give too many details. Her own father said to her, but you're raising a son. You can't be on this I hate men kick for the rest of your life because you are raising a boy. Right. And what is that teaching him? And that's huge. Like, I don't want my kids to feel that from me. And I don't want them to feel it in our marriage, that I am like emasculating my husband, or not just like emasculating him, but like my feelings matter and fuck you. And, like, which is also how I used to be.
Yeah. Well, it's like what we said in the 12-step episode. And you can write out your resentments. But then you need to write out the role you play in those situations, because we do have a role to play. Mm-hmm. You have sons to raise, and I have a son to raise. And I want him to be, grow up to be a man who shows emotion and, can hold space for himself, can hold space for other people. Yeah. So I have to parent him that way. Yeah. I can't parent him being like, fuck these guys. Like, right. It's not going to work. Right. So it's like, I have to be the change. And to be the change, I've got to parent him in a way that I want him to show up in the world when he becomes an adult. Yeah. So
that's a good one. Being a man is not the flex you think it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. Next one. Telling it like it is, brutal honesty. It's usually more about ego than forward movement.
Ooh. I feel this one. I feel this one so deeply.
Do you want to talk about it? You go first.
Yeah, I think that there is a strong case that in my past I've been a bully. And I've said it before, when I came out of my mushroom journey, the first one, I was like, I have a lot of people to apologize to.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was very angry and projected onto people who it wasn't their fault. But also, I was somebody who was very like, tell it how it is. Tell them what you really think. Tell them your opinion. Fuck you, whatever. And again, I don't think in a lot of situations I was wrong to maybe feel the way that I felt.
Right.
But it was how I said it and not having courtesy or compassion that they also have their perspective and their journey and their reasons for why they are the way that they are. And there are things that I can say, but learning how to say it.
Okay.
And so for me, now I'm like I can't not say stuff. I've learned that about myself. I can't not say something. So if you are close in my life, I have to tell you how I'm feeling. But right now, I'm very cautious and conscious and almost a little paranoid of bringing it up, because in the past I've said things so directly and so bluntly, and I've lost friendships over it.
Okay.
Because I'm sure I really hurt their feelings. Where now I'm like, I don't want that. I really care about your feelings. I want to say what I have to say. And you hold space for that, and us not lose a friendship or a relationship over that, but also hold space to your perspective and what you have to say too, because I probably have a part in this situation as well.
Okay. I'm glad you added the last part, because I'm like, I can't relate to this because I've never been that person who is like brutally honest.
Yeah.
I keep a lot of things in.
Yeah.
I was actually having this conversation with my friend Sarah the other day about like me and my luteal phase and like the things that bother me and wanting to bring them up, but also like knowing that I'm in my luteal phase and it didn't bother me 2 days ago and it's bothering me now. Do I bring it up or do I keep it in? And it's not that I'm keeping it in or suppressing it, but I have a very different approach to this where I am going to figure out, I will only bring it up if I can't work it out on my own. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, because sometimes I'll be like, okay, is this necessary? What was the role that I played in this? Is it worth it to even bring it up? And not just like with anything, you know, there was somebody who texted me a couple weeks ago and I just didn't respond. And my husband was like, what's responding going to do? Is it worth it? And I was like, no, you're right. Like, I don't even want to put the energy into responding to this. Like, it's not somebody who I'm close with.
Yes.
So I don't need to be that person who tells this person what I feel about this situation, because I'm like, you know what? I don't need to sit in that. So you're right. I'm just not going to respond.
Yes. And I want to put an emphasis on people that matter to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I'm glad that you said that, because if it's someone who matters to me, and also if it's something that I cannot work out myself, like I can't work myself out of it and I'm like holding on to it and it's creating friction that like this other person doesn't even know is there, then I'm going to have to like work up the fucking courage to like deliver it in a way that is going to be heard.
Yes.
There have been people that I have lost who I don't know can hear what I have to say.
Same.
So it's like, it's falling on deaf ears. What's the point? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've already said, does that make sense twice? Like,
I'm going to make you start like dropping down and giving me 10 push-ups.
I know. I'm gotten better at it in person.
Okay. That's good.
All right. The next one. We actually had a couple of these, so I don't want to lose my place, so I'm just gonna say it, and then when we get to it, we'll say we already did it. Being busy with work, I would call that like a workaholic.
So not a flex.
It's not a flex.
Used to be that person,
right? I think hustle culture really fucking did a number on us.
But I think that was, like for me, it got to the point. I used to own a gym. It got to the point where I had, and I was just telling you this earlier today, I had a UTI for about 1.5 years on antibiotic for 1.5 years because I was so stressed. Being a mom, trying to be a partner, run a business during a pandemic, when you had to shut down for 3 months. That was not easy. Also learning that I'm a projector and even owning that business, I was not living to my design at all. And I wasn't getting the rest I needed. But it got to the point where I felt like I was quitting, or I felt like I wasn't like, I think a lot of women too are conditioned to be like a man, hustle, grind, work that 9 to 5, earn your keep type
have
thing.
The kids,
get
the kids, married, do it all.
Clean the house, cook the food.
Remember appointments.
Yeah, and it just...
Do the field trips.
I couldn't work on that level, and my body was every day telling me, bitch, Do something different, sit the fuck down and like rest. And I wouldn't, because I felt like to contribute to society, I had to be that way.
I think now that we know what we know about human design, first off, not everybody is meant to or wired to work the way that people do when they're like 9 to 5 or working 40 plus hours a week.
Those are the manifesting generators and the generators of the world.
Yeah. And even sometimes they get burnt out when they're not doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing, or the things that they love, and they have no passion for it. They're used to that hustle and grind, but like they're still in a job that like doesn't really serve them. But they can do that 9 to 5. My husband can do the fucking 9 to 5 and shut off at 5 o'clock. I can't. I cannot. I also think that like there's something to be said about that work-life balance. And also, I know I've mentioned this book before. I'm going to mention it again in the Heroine's Journey. It talks about how women try so hard to live in this patriarchal society and have the job and have the kids and have the degrees, and we do it all at what price? So I was having this conversation with somebody the other day who is in business and struggling and is having a hard time because she's like, everybody else is doing just fine. I'm like, I'm going to stop you right there. I owned a business for 12 years and I was not fine. So the people, you don't know, these people who look like they have successful businesses and they have these perfect families and they're doing it all, you do not know whether they are suffering on the inside or not. They very well could be. Yeah. And they're just doing a really good job of pretending they're doing okay, which is what I did for a very long time.
Have been conditioned to.
You just do it.
Yeah.
We don't know any different.
Right.
So yeah, that's what this book talks about, is how women chase that. And then they get there and then they're like, this is it. I thought this is like the American dream, like, and my life is still not, like, I'm still not happy. Like, what else is there? I've hit every goal and there's nothing. Yeah. So, all right. Being busy with work. Do you have anything else to add to that?
But I do have one to add, just whenever.
Why don't you do it now so we don't forget it?
Okay. I don't know if this is on there, but when people say, that's just how I was raised, or that's just the way that I am.
I think that is on here.
Okay, great.
But we'll know now when we get there.
Okay, great.
Love that. I know so many people like that. You knew who I was when you met me. I haven't changed and I don't want you to change me and you shouldn't want to change me. I have a lot to say about that.
Go.
Okay. First off, the things that sometimes people are like, that's who I am. That's how I was when you met me. That's not who you are. It's really not. That's not who you are to your core. Like, those are like, well, I drank when you met me. That's not who you are.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm thinking something different maybe than you are.
No, yeah.
Or I'm brutally honest. That's just who I am. You knew I was like that when you met me. Like, again, that's not who you are. Those are things that you do. Those are coping skills. I wouldn't even call them skills.
Projections.
Those are tools that you've picked up along the way, but that is not the essence of who you are as a person. You can remove those things and still be exactly who you are. So I don't like that when people say, this is just who I am and this is who I'll always be. There's always room for growth and always room for change.
Totally. I think well, that's just how I was raised.
Yeah.
So I'll just use an example. Someone who is very religious that I know, and, again, I'm not knocking your Christianity, but grew up in church, now as an adult, has kids, is in church with her family, and it's like, I can't listen to what you have to say because it's like, I didn't get taught that type of a thing. And for me, I'm like, you can still have your stance and you can still have your opinion, but also there can still be a curiosity to someone else's perspective, other type of knowledge and information. Like, to me, it's not a flex to be like, oh, that's just how I was raised, so I'm not going to hear anything else that's different, unique, like goes against that, maybe a little bit of a different perspective. Like, for me, let's say raising my child, I want him to learn about different things, even if they're maybe against what I believe, because I want him to form his own opinion and become a critical thinker.
You know how I feel about religion, and I want my kids to take classes on religion.
Yeah. Like,
and
I want
different religions, not just like,
right.
Like, I want you to go and learn about Buddhism and Taoism and all the different like types of religion that there are.
But why is that wrong?
It's not wrong.
But I feel like there is this like, this is how I was raised, so I can't learn about anything else because then that's like wrong. And it's like, well, if you truly stand with that conviction, you should you can still be able to hear and learn about different things while still having your belief and opinion.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I used to have, and she's opened now, I think because maybe she's done a mushroom journey.
Yeah, that will change it.
She is one of my friends who is like super Christian, but I fucking love her.
I have one of those too. Audra, hey.
Aw. And I remember talking to her one time about my experience with a medium, and she said, oh, that just kind of goes against my religion. And she was like, but I've always been curious about it. And then now she's like reaching out asking me about my medium information, because I'm like, the fact that like you were like, oh, I can't do that, it goes against my religion. I'm like, there's a lot of things that are like that are connected to the spiritual world and religion that like they tell you not to do, but I'm like, once you do it, you're like, oh, this makes sense, this connects to this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all right. You went a different direction with that, but I kind of really like that. Like the two different perspectives on
absolutely.
that. Someone said a college degree.
So agree.
Not a flex. And I honestly, like, years ago used to be like, my kids are going to go to college. I didn't finish college. I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
Didn't finish college. And I would be like, my kids are going to college. And now I'm like, please don't go to college. It's a fucking scam. I will say that there are some things, and it depends on what you want to do with your life, but there are some things you can do without a college degree. Actually, and it's kind of starting to turn into that anyway. Like, I don't want to be 45 paying off my student loans from when I was 18 years old with a career that I didn't even love. And you know what I mean? And with a degree that I don't even want to use anymore.
I'm 36 and still paying college loans with a degree that I didn't even have to get.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like I have found success without a degree, and I think anybody can. But again, I will say, like, I have one kid who thinks he wants to be a lawyer. Like, fuck, you got to go to law school.
Right. You want to be a doctor. Yeah.
Got to go to doctor school.
Oh my God.
Listen, I just said I didn't finish college, medical school. But, but I don't think it's a flex. Like, I've never really been ashamed to say that I didn't go to college.
I love that. Well,
it's never bothered me.
And here's the thing too. Like, we've learned a lot about just even traditional school and why they created that. And it was to prep people to work in a factory.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like you have this 18-year-old and there is pressure to go to college, okay? So then...
And pressure to know what you want to do with the rest of your life.
That, and I know so many people who 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, 4 years in, they're like, I don't think that this is what I want to do, but I've already wasted 2, 3, whatever years of my life learning this. I don't want to start over. So then they go with that. And then they go into that job role and they go into that corporate world. And they hate their fucking job. But they're like, I went to college for this. I don't want to start over. I don't want to find a completely new career.
All that money in this.
I put all that money into it, and now I'd have to find a new career, and I'd have to take a pay cut or do this and do that. So in a lot of ways, not in every way. Again, I'm not like this is black and white. Yeah, in a lot of ways, college is a scam, and I will die on that hill.
I will stand by that. I hate that like we have to pay so much, because if you live in the UK, like you don't fucking pay the way that we do here. It's horrible. To add to that, what you just said, I know some people whose parents paid for their school as long as they chose this
oh my God
degree. As long as they were working towards this, they paid for their school. So a lot of adults will get stuck in that, like, my parents would be so mad at me if I didn't use this degree, or they would be so mad at me if I switched in the middle of my college career, like, or they would cut me off. So it's not even just like you're paying for it. Like there's like that added pressure of like, oh my God, if I switch now, or if I drop out of college now, they're going to be so fucking pissed because they just spent all this money on me to go to college. And they worked so hard to put me through college.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pressure.
So much pressure.
What I really, really want, and call me fucking weird and hippy dippy and crazy, is I want my kids to take a sabbatical. Like, I will send you to the fucking jungle. It doesn't have to be the jungle, but like, do I want them to do mushrooms when they turn 18? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Hell yeah.
Like, go do mushrooms, find yourself, and then come back and tell me what you want to do with the rest of your life. And it's okay if you don't even know then.
And also, it's okay if it changes.
It's okay if it changes. That's like the whole part of this journey, is like changing your mind and being okay with that. Like, I love that permission.
And think about this. When you go to college and when you finish college, your brain is most likely still not even developed. Obviously, depending on what age you graduate, but
not till you're 25.
I thought it was 26.
I think it might be 25 or 26. Your frontal lobe is fully developed.
Right.
To add to this, nobody added this, but I'm adding it right now. IQ versus emotional intelligence.
Oh.
And I'm saying this because even though I don't have the master's degree that my husband has, like, I am so much more. I don't even want to say now. I was so much more emotionally intelligent than he was. He's come a long fucking way. Like, he didn't think that was important. He thought IQ was important. But I teach our kids emotional intelligence. Like, they're so fucking smart. And I'm like, they don't get it from me. Because I know them like that. I wasn't that smart. Like, but I am smart. So fucking intelligent.
But you are smart.
Yes. I've always said I don't have common sense, but I have street sense. Like, I am smart in ways that someone who like learned from a book might not be smart, you know?
Yeah.
So I stand by that. Like, emotional intelligence will always be more, that will be sexier to me than IQ any day.
Well, and they
ever.
also say, because you know the saying where it's like, C students are always A students' bosses.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah, and it's usually true. You want to know why? Because C students over here. C students.
I was an A student. I just didn't. I hated it.
But C students were like, they didn't get the praise and go like, all right, you do this perfectly. You do this perfect. This. They're used to not fitting in the box and having to maybe have more creative ways to get praise or get attention. And so oftentimes, like, they have other skill sets, and that could be emotional intelligence. It could be, you know, better interaction with people. And so oftentimes they're better with people.
Yeah.
So they are better leaders because of that. They didn't just go by the book with every fucking thing and get the A and do this and yada, yada, yada. And so a lot of times, like in management leadership roles, it's not the A student, it's the C student.
Who had more emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think people with high emotional intelligence they're good at reading people, and they're better at working with people. 100%. Yeah. So even though that's not in there, high IQ, not a flex. Good for you. If you have one.
Oh, I was like, what did I do?
If you've got an extremely high IQ, but also what is your emotional intelligence level?
And to that, I say like the people in the family who have the emotional intelligence are the ones who maybe can start the trajectory of healing for the family and focusing on those type of important things like mental health and, you know, boundaries and all of the things that we should learn to function as an independent, empathetic, caring adult that we want our children to be.
I used to say that all the time to Jason years ago. I'm like, I may not know the things that you know, but I know people.
Yeah.
Like I really do.
Yeah, for sure.
And which is why I fucking had my job for as long as I did. I worked really, really well with people. Being nice. It's not the flex you think it is.
Fuck no.
I feel like that could fall into the people pleaser category.
Totally. And also there's a difference between being nice and being kind. I feel like being kind.
Yeah.
Like being nice isn't authentic. Being kind is more like authentic and compassionate. Like I want to be kind, but also like I want people to know like, don't fucking try it. Do not fucking try it. I am kind, but don't try it.
I like that.
Whereas nice, I feel like it's like.
It really does fall
fake.
into that people pleaser category.
Yeah.
Like I'm nice because I want you to like me.
Yeah.
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 Crying about it later or not at all is not a flex.
What is it? What do you mean? Crying about it later or not at all?
Holding it in.
Okay. Suppression.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I cry all the time.
You do, for
over
sure.
everything. I will say I have not cried season 3 yet. Hasn't happened.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what?
We still got time. We got time.
Challenge is on. Crying about it later, not at all. I think it is, and I said this, I think it is okay to cry in the moment.
Totally.
Like 100%. I cry at my daughter's gymnastics meets. One of the girls fell off the beam. It wasn't even my daughter, but one of the little 6-year-olds fell off the beam. And no. She did her routine wrong. She like did a completely different routine. It was the saddest thing.
Aww.
Had like such a breakdown off the beam. All of her little teammates who were like little 6 and 7-year-olds are like hugging her and like rubbing her back. I was crying because I was like, oh my God, the way that these little girls are like helping her, like it was so adorable. I also cried because she like forgot her routine and I was like, oh God, like,
oh yeah.
But I cry over that stuff and I have no shame.
Yeah.
No shame.
I used to feel a lot of shame because I'm somebody who, if I'm angry, I cry. If I'm sad, I cry. If I'm happy, I cry. If I'm frustrated, I cry. If I'm having a hard conversation, I cry. Like any type of emotion I felt, I cried, and I would feel so, like, just so bad that I'm embarrassed. And now I'm like, but what's interesting is now doing that and giving myself permission to feel those things and it's okay, I do it less.
I was just going to say
because
that.
I don't think I bottle it up as much because there's not so much shame and embarrassment with it. So then when I am frustrated and I go to Tony about my feelings, I'm a lot more calm.
It's like when you're holding in a cough and it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're like trying to hold this cough in and it's like you're dying inside.
And it's like, bitch, just cough.
Just cough.
Yeah.
To add to that, I have said this to Jason before, because he'll start talking to me about something and I'm like, I'm listening, we're communicating, but I'm just crying. And he was like, it makes me feel bad when you're crying. I'm like, it's just emotions. Like, we can have this conversation. I don't want you to not have this conversation just because I'm crying. Like, I can't help it. This is a difficult conversation. I've done that with you before.
I was literally going to say that.
Like, and you were like, you feel so bad talking to me.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm talking to a puppy.
But don't feel bad.
But it's my thing.
Just,
it's my thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like you are allowed to have an emotion.
It's just coming out of me. I can't fucking help it. Like, I'm not going to hold it in. It just comes out.
But for me, it's the hives that get me. I'm like, oh my God, she's breaking out in hives.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
And I don't want that to happen. But
That's-
you do that. You're doing it right now.
I am?
Yeah, just
Jesus
a little.
Christ.
Yeah.
It used to be much, much worse. Like,
so
I
crazy.
couldn't hide. That's the thing. Like, I couldn't hide when I was uncomfortable.
And you shouldn't.
Because my neck and face would get so fucking red.
Yeah.
And people would be like, something's wrong with you. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. No, I fucking wasn't. I wasn't fine. All right, so crying about it later or not at all. That's not a flex. Just fucking let it out, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I also understand, and there's two sides to this, having a safe place to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
I create my own safe place, so I don't fucking care. I'll cry in a grocery store. Okay. Never getting angry. It's not a flex.
So not a fucking flex.
And you're all like, I never get mad. I would love to see what you're holding on to and not letting out. Actually, I wouldn't. That would be terrifying. That's what happened with me. That's what happened with me. You know all about like all my Cali shit last year.
Yeah, I do.
It was terrifying when it came out.
Yeah.
Not just to my husband, but terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Because I had never experienced that level of rage in my entire life. And it was scary.
Well, and if you're never angry, I go back to the lack of authenticity within yourself then.
Yeah.
Because again, emotions are okay. You can feel angry. You can feel sad. You should feel frustrated at times. It's not just happiness all the time. Like, it is okay to feel angry. Oftentimes, what we do with that anger is what makes it not okay.
Right.
But angry, so fucking healthy.
It's really fucking healthy.
So fucking healthy. It's a needed emotion to feel.
So the rage room, we're going to go. But I was talking about this with a friend.
I will fuck that room up.
One of my girlfriends, they went as a work trip. And she was like, this one guy, like, it was so crazy watching him. And she was like, but the crazy thing is, like, he's the last person you would expect to have that much anger and rage. And I was like, those are usually the ones with the most.
Yeah.
Like, show me someone who's always happy. I will show you someone who is internalizing their rage and suppressing all the things that make them angry. 100% that person is not that happy.
Yeah. You know what I see a lot in people who suppress their anger and what it comes out in? Passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
I see that a lot where it's like, they're nice, but then they throw that like little backhanded compliment because they're really like a fucking bitter Betty about something. And you're like, oh, did they just shade me? I'm not really sure, but I think that was a read. And just say it. Or just feel whatever you need to feel.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know what I did with my anger. I don't know where the fuck it went.
I could see you being a little passive aggressive.
I don't think I could do that.
Really?
No.
Even to Jason?
Maybe to Jason.
Okay. Because I was like, must be nice going out on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I could never do that to anybody else.
interesting. Okay.
I don't think I could be wrong. If you guys know me on the personal level, tell me. I don't think I was passive aggressive. Like, I would just be super fucking nice.
Yeah.
Maybe
All right.
I'm wrong. Let's ask Sarah. I don't think I was passive aggressive at all. Being liked by everybody, that's
We've said it.
yeah, could totally go into that. Never fighting in a relationship.
I have a lot to
That's
say
not
about
a flex.
this. I have a lot to say
Yes,
about
you
this.
do. Let's hear it.
Okay. I know a lot of couples. They've been together for 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever years. Okay? And people think that, like, they're so cute together. They're so good together because they've been together for so long and they never fight. To me, I think that is
That's a red flag.
It's such a red flag to me, and here's why. How can you not fight? I think fighting with your partner is healthy.
You have to
because
learn
you
how to
have
fight.
to learn how to fight. I also, this may be unpopular, think it's okay for your children to see mom and dad have a disagreement, but
repair,
then resolve it.
yeah, yeah.
I think that is healthy, because I've heard kids say, well, I don't know why my parents got divorced. They never fought. And to me, that's the opposite of love isn't hate, because with hate, there's still passion and there's still strong feelings there. To me, the opposite of love is apathy, indifference.
Can I admit something?
Sure.
So before my healing journey and before my husband was sober, I was the cool wife because I always let him go out and he was always getting to do what he wanted. And I will tell you right now, he thought we were just fine. He thought we were fine because I was just checked out emotionally. I didn't have the bandwidth to have the arguments over and over and over that we had been having for years, like about him leaving me with the kids and going out. Like there was at least a good 2 years where I was just like, it's fine. Like I was the fucking cool wife.
Wow.
So yeah. And because I never said anything, I didn't bring it up anymore. It got to the point where I just gave up.
Yeah.
So we didn't fight at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so fucking, like I could never.
I can live to
never
testify that that is not a sign of a healthy relationship, never fighting.
There are also people who maybe it's not that extreme where it's like the partner is partying and going out and hanging out with friends, but they're not having hard conversations.
Yeah.
Any type of hard conversations, or, to me, I feel like as Tony and I have grown, we've learned about each other, but we've learned about ourselves.
Yeah.
And shown up in an authentic way. And to me, to show up in an authentic way, you also have a lot of deep conversations. And so people who are very like shallow surface, like they both like football, they both do, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but like what else?
Some of our biggest fights in the last couple of years, I remember one of them in particular lasted for like several days, and it ended with him saying to me, I know that this has been a really hard few days, but I think we just got a lot out of it. And I was like, you're right. Like it kind of forced us to deal with some shit that we hadn't dealt with yet. And it took days.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that in an hour or 2 hours. And, we've got kids at home, so we've got things that we have to do. And so it would be like a few hours every night after the kids would go to bed. We would continue the conversation, and they were really fucking hard. Mm-hmm. But after every single one of them, we would come out of it and have like this better understanding of why it was that in the first place. And what we were going to do moving forward.
I love that.
So
I love that you shared that, because it is very important. And Tony and I, in the beginning of our relationship, and granted, it is really hard to blend a family, be in a blended family and be a stepmom. I think being a stepmom is so much harder than being a stepdad, and I will fucking die on that hill. For many reasons, but we really had to work through some tough stuff to actually blend our family in a healthy way. And we had to go through a lot of like hard phases and seasons of life. But now it's like we have truly learned how to fight because we actually fought and put in the work. So you have to learn how to fight, but you should fight.
Rick Rubin says this, and I fucking love it, and I'm stealing it, and I say it all the time now. There is no right or wrong. There is, this is what I see. What do you see?
I love that.
And so now when we have these, I don't even like calling them fights. Like they're arguments, they're disagreements, they're hiccups.
Different perspectives. That's why we're able to get through them, because we come out of it and there is no like, I was right, you were wrong. That's never gonna fix a fight. That is never going to fix a fight. We come out of it and we're like,
this is how I felt when you did this, and this is how you felt when I did this. And so let's understand that, and let's not do that moving forward. There is really like a this was my perspective, this was your perspective. Neither one of us are wrong, but how do we keep from doing this in the future? How do we keep from getting here to this point where we're like in this rage storm together?
Okay, so I'm going to add to that.
Okay.
Something that is not a flex.
Yeah.
Someone who prides themselves in the fact that they don't often apologize because they think they're never wrong.
I know that's totally not a flex.
I know, but I know a lot of people, myself included, who like
have a hard time apologizing.
Yes. Because you're like, you fucked up. You're wrong. Like, so you're going to apologize to me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, you have a role to play in this too.
Yeah.
And so I often think that though they may not admit it, but they're not good apologizers, because in every fight or every disagreement, they're like, I'm right. They're wrong. Instead of like, okay, this is how I feel, or they made me feel this way, but I have a role to play in this too. I could have made them feel this way, Right. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, I think a lot of people get stuck in that. Well, you apologize first because you did this first.
Yeah.
But that's the hardest thing, is like being the first one to do it. That's really fucking hard. I'll admit that. That's hard. Because I'm like, I will apologize, but you go first.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's real fucked up.
Yeah.
But also there is this like, when like whoever is the person who goes first, it is like an immediate like I don't know how to explain it, but there's like a letdown of like,
yeah,
okay, and I'm really sorry I did this.
Yeah.
But like, I don't ever want to be the one that goes first, because I was the one that went first for a long time. So, but anyway, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to work on. All right, next one. Being normal is not a flex.
It's so not. Okay, you're just like everybody else.
The definition of normal is like literally square.
Oh my God.
Square. We have said this before, and the definition of weird is like fucking magical.
I'll take magical all day, every fucking day, baby.
Yes. Like, I don't want to fit in a box.
Also, who sets that?
Who's normal?
Well, and what's normal?
What's normal? Like, inauthenticity is normal. I don't want to do that. Yeah. I don't want to put on a mask, the same mask. And let me say this. Once you start living without that inauthentic mask on, and you are walking around maskless, there's a point to this. Whenever you do have to put it back on, because there are times I do, it is exhausting. And I come home and I am depleted. And I'm like, how the fuck did I do that my entire life? Because now I can't even do it for like 30 minutes without like wanting to come up for air.
Yeah. So
it's like that. My tolerance for being inauthentic is so much lower than it ever used to be. I used to be really good at just being this person for everybody. And now I'm like, that was never who I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being normal.
Yep. Love that.
Okay. Being a good girl. Or a good boy.
I don't know. I've never been a good girl. So Leah, maybe you can speak on this, because I was always the kid where I wasn't the good girl because I had a fucking mouth on me. So
yeah, I wasn't necessary. I think my mom would maybe disagree, but I was like, I was so fucking good compared to other kids. Like, I really was. Like, I had good grades. Like, I went to church. Like, I did all the things, but like.
But you still did the good girl things.
I did the good girl things.
Didn't feel whole. So what does that say?
Yeah. Doesn't say very much. So this whole good girl, I think that kind of goes into also like why I had so much rage come up last year. Like, a good girl doesn't get angry. Good girls don't get mad. You're just a good girl all the time. Oh my God, you're so sweet. Like, oh my God, you're so nice all the time. Like, no. I hate that. I used to be that. And I didn't like it.
Yeah. As somebody
What is a good girl?
Right. And as somebody who was never really a good girl, I have seen the conditioning that you see with even like a good little boy.
Yeah.
With little girls and little boys. Like, oh, you never act up.
So well behaved.
You're so well behaved.
I was just going to say, I see a lot of stuff about like the kid who was like the well behaved like kid who like hung out with the adults because they didn't like do the things that the other kids do.
You're so mature.
You're so mature for your age. Where are you now? Are you okay?
Send us a DM.
like you didn't get to be a child
because
you were having to be this like good girl, good boy. Like that's not a flex.
Right. Yep.
My kids are good kids, but like they don't play that like they don't play that good girl, good boy role. Like they're fucking kids who fart and burp and
my son
play hard.
My son is a fucking menace. But I love him.
I know. Like, let him be a kid.
I know. And
let them be a kid.
He is a menace.
Perfectionism is not a flex.
Yeah.
Because it's unattainable. It is. I have a friend who is a perfectionist who is very aware that she is that way because her parents pushed it on her because they were perfectionists.
Is she doing anything about it?
No.
Even though she's aware?
No. She also has kids, and I said, what is that teaching your kids? And she was like, well, I don't expect it from them. I just expect it from me. And I'm like, again, what is that teaching your kids? Like you're still teaching them this, like they see you striving for perfection. And she was very much like, oh, I don't expect it from anybody else, just me. Like I'm harder on me than I am on anybody.
Well, but it's like the women who they body shame themselves, but they want their child to love themselves. And it's like, well,
that's what you're teaching.
Has just watched you completely pick apart your body. So they're also going to have that belief, right, about themselves. Like you are their role model. You're
I don't
think
people think that though. I don't think it really is like monkey see, monkey do. Like just because you're not telling your kids this, whatever you are embodying is what your kids are learning from you because the actions and the words don't match up.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just watching you.
Yep.
So even though you think you're not doing this to your kids because you're not pushing them the way your parents pushed you, you are still doing this to your kids. Mm-hmm. So it all kind of goes back to like, you got to heal that in yourself first.
Yeah. And like, if you want your kids to become it, you have to be it.
Right.
Like, so what do you need
if you
to do
don't
to be
want
it?
them, if you don't want this, and she was very aware. She was like, I would never do that to my kids, but you are because you're teaching them like that. That's what you're teaching them.
There's a mom I know. She's an alcoholic and she doesn't want her kids to drink. And it's like, well, so that the math is not methin'. And it's like, I'm like, you're very worried that they're going to do this, but it starts
with you.
Right. They see it. They're around it. You're modeling it literally for them.
I didn't even think about like the whole body shaming thing, but you're exactly right. Like if you don't want your kids to be like upset with their body, then you kind of have to work on that yourself. Like you can't be like, well, it's okay that I am not happy with my body, but you can be happy with yours.
Well, and as somebody who has been a personal trainer, I've seen so many women be like, oh my God, my 6-year-old, she's been having these like, picking apart her body and asking about calories and worried about food. And I don't know where she got that from. And I go, she got it from you. Yeah. She didn't. Yes, there's TV, there's all of these things, but she got it because it's in the home.
Yeah.
So
I don't think people realize how much of an impact you have on your kids.
Yeah, like their
brains are developing during that.
That should be in itself so much
time.
Motivation to heal.
It really should.
But anyways,
sometimes it's not.
I digress.
Not asking for help is not a flex.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of used to be like that.
It's like the Brene Brown, like vulnerability, her talk on vulnerability on Netflix, which if you haven't watched it, highly recommend. Did you ever watch it?
No, I need to.
Oh my God, it's so fucking good. But it's literally like just being a human sometimes is knowing that you can't do it all alone, and that we need community, and that it's okay to ask for help. And as hard as that seems, it's not a flex to act like you can do it all. I think that's the thing too.
Well, and congratulations, you're burnt out.
Right?
Congratulations, you are running on that empty tank.
Yes. Like, what is that doing for you in the long run?
But I do also understand that sometimes people genuinely like don't have help.
That's true too.
You know? So that can be hard.
That's true too.
But yeah, that's not a black and white. But
it's not a black and white answer.
But that's what goes with having that awareness of like, if there are people who are like, hey, you know, I see you're really busy. If you need me to help babysit your kid, or you need help with this, like, just let me know. Take them up on it.
Well, okay, I can even like take this a step down and say, like, even, you know, my husband, he is the neat freak in the house and does the dishes when they're piling up in the sink, and it doesn't bother me because I grew up with a hoarder. But it bothers him, so he's always doing it, and he's like, nobody ever helps. And I'm like, well, you can ask me to do the dishes and I'll do the dishes. Like, I just don't think about it the way you think about it. Yeah. But also, like, it's our kids have chores, and he said that too. Like, well, I shouldn't have to ask them to do it though. And I'm like, but you do, because they're kids.
Right.
So like, you're making it harder on yourself because you're doing them because you say it's easier to just do them yourself than asking for help. But like, really, you're not doing anybody any favors. Anybody.
Right.
Not yourself, not our kids, not me.
Right.
Like, I don't know when you're drowning. So, you know, I need you to communicate that.
Yeah.
If I can take something off your plate, like, even if I don't think about it and you need help, like, tell me and I'll take it off your plate.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah.
So asking for help. Okay. We already did this a little bit. I did hustle culture. We didn't do hustle culture. We did workaholic. So same thing. Being hard on yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a flex.
Well, and it's like, most of us grew up being hard on ourselves and shaming ourselves for things or feelings or whatever. And it's like, where did that get us?
There's a book called Try Softer.
I love
that. I recommend to a lot of people, because I think a lot of people gaslight themselves out of their feelings and emotions because they're like, I shouldn't feel this way, and I should be stronger than this, and I need to snap out of this. Like, or you could be a little bit softer and give yourself a little bit more grace and say, it's okay that I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
And that goes such a long way.
I often hear, I should be so grateful.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not starving in Africa.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, your experience is your experience.
Right.
And you're here to have a human experience. And to have a human experience, you're going to feel all sorts of things. And those are still valid. Multiple things can be valid at the same time.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons have you ever heard of the 75 hard?
Yes.
I hate that.
I've never done it.
I hate it so much because it's like, if you mess one thing up, you have to start over. Mm-hmm. And when we did our thing with Michaela last year, and she was just like, if you want to have a cheat meal, have a cheat meal. It's like, right, you're human. Like, give yourself a little bit of grace. That goes such a long way than being like, oh, I've messed up, I got to start over. You know? When she gave me permission to work out 2 days a week, I was like, what? Okay, thank you. It's like, we're waiting on people to give us, we're waiting on permission to be soft on ourselves. And I don't think we should wait on that permission. I think we can be softer on ourselves without someone telling us.
Yeah. When we went, or when I was in high school, and I was deep in my bulimia, I was very hard on other people, but that was because I was so hard on myself. Ooh. So I projected it onto everyone else. Ooh. So that was, you know, being bulimic. When everyone after a basketball game, they would be eating pizza, I wouldn't eat anything at all. That would be eating lunch in the locker room instead of in the lunchroom. That would be working out when I wake up, go to practice after school, and then working out when I get home.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I say I was hard on myself, like, I really mean physically, emotionally. Like, I pushed myself and I went full transparency, went into the fitness industry so I could continue being hard on my body.
And where'd that get you?
I'm not in the fitness industry anymore.
And I mean, what did we learn last year too? Like the way that you went hard did more damage to your body than good.
Oh, yeah. I have way more hormonal and gut issues than you do because I was so hard on my body for so long.
I know a lot of people in the fitness world who have a lot of hormonal and gut issues, but they're not doing what they're doing because they are like, well, it's just normal to have all these hormone issues
and now
what is that? Dysbiosis.
Yeah.
Like all of these things.
Dysbiosis, SIBO, high cortisol, low melatonin.
You went a little too hard there.
A little too hard in the paint.
And I'm like, here I am like, oh, so it's a good thing that I didn't like, I've never been into working out.
I think there's balance.
Right. And I mean, I'm kidding, but I was just like, oh, damn. And I would have thought that you would have been the healthiest.
No.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not a flex.
Yeah. Which it's so conditioned in me that being soft has been really hard to channel. Working on it. Yeah. But it does not come natural to me. So
some of these I'm going to just skim past them because they're kind of the same things being repeated. Grinding past work hours, workaholic, being the yes person, people pleaser. This is another one. Doing it all. Super wife, super mom, super employee, super friend, super woman.
I feel like
it's not a flex.
I feel like that falls into a lot of different categories.
It really does.
Because that falls into people pleasing, that falls into workaholic hustle culture, that falls into being the yes person.
We are not meant to do it all like that.
That falls into also trying to fit in and be normal instead of like showing up as your authentic self.
And being honest with yourself when you need a break. You need a break.
Yeah.
Sometimes one of those balls has to fall that you're trying to juggle to keep the other ones up.
Well, and when my business closed, I was like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I quit. How can I live with myself? What am I going to do with my life? And it felt so awful in the moment. And I felt like such a complete loser. And like I quit something or failed something when it was the best redirection that has ever happened in my life. It was so necessary. So although it felt low and there was a lot of shame in the moment, looking back 3 years now, I'm like, holy shit, bitch, how'd you do that for that long?
Right? It's like going through that uncomfortable change is always the hardest part. Like it's so hard because you don't see the other side of it yet. It's always hard.
Tony always says, you will be ready to change when the nervousness of what the change is outweighs the like comfort of being the same.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, there is a discomfort and an anxiety with change, but also I'd rather have that than feel the discomfort of staying the same and doing the same thing that is obviously not working for me.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So much
to hold on to.
Yeah.
I've always heard this thing about like everybody has these balls that they're juggling. And let's say one is your work, one is your family, one is your friends, one is your mental health, one is your need to rest, all these things. And you've got to decide which ones are rubber and which ones are glass.
Ooh.
And so sometimes when you're juggling, you've got to let some of those fall to hold those glass balls up. And sometimes those glass balls change. Like sometimes you have a friend who really needs you. And so that's got to be a glass ball in the moment. And if your home life and your other stuff is good in that moment, it's okay to let that fall to go grab this one. I don't know.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Oh, we already did this one, the hating men.
Yep.
Yeah. And vice versa.
Yeah.
It works both ways.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to attract a king if you're not treating him like a king, and you're not going to be treated like a queen if you're not treating him like a king. It works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It really does.
Yep.
Somebody said how much I could drink in a night. It's not a flex.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't even think about because we don't really drink. So
No. You're like, yeah, I never get drunk. I have a really high tolerance.
yeah.
That's not a flex.
Yeah.
You've built that up.
Well, and two, like so many people are like, I'm worried about doing mushrooms.
Yeah.
Or I had this bad experience because I used it incorrectly. Emphasis on the incorrectly. And I'm like, I've seen you get fucked up. Puke
Laying
your guts
in your
out.
puke.
Yeah. Piss yourself. Like, do the craziest shit while you've been drunk and be hungover for 3 days to then the very next weekend do it again.
Do it again.
And it did nothing for you. It served nothing for you. So, like, come on.
There's something there that you're not saying that you're
Yeah.
afraid of. This next one, my travels. They said, what's a flex that is not a flex that used to think was? My travels. I grew up with more money than my fiance and friends. I can see how that's not the flex you thought it was, because not everybody grows up with money, and I think there's a lot of, what am I trying to say?
Well, I guess so. You and I grew up poor.
Yeah.
And so I have always had friends that had more money than me. And if someone came to me and they're like, oh, I do this and this and this and this and this, I'm like, well, you didn't do it. Your mom and dad did it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I get what she's saying. Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, this isn't, you didn't buy this house. Your mom and dad bought it. You didn't buy this nice shit that you have. Your mom and dad bought it.
Yeah.
Call me when you earn it. No, I'm just kidding.
I hear what it's just not the flex that
Yeah.
she used to think it was.
Yeah.
And traveling also is not necessarily like a flex,
Yeah.
because some of the best people I know have lived in the same towns their entire lives, and
Yeah.
they are big on community and big on helping others. And, sometimes there's there's some good stuff in small towns.
Yeah.
And both of us coming from small towns, like, I can say that
Yeah.
there's a little bit of good there.
Yeah.
I think it's good to like have both.
Yes. I was going to say, I think traveling is also amazing though, because you're learning different cultures. You're learning how different people live. If you're truly going and like seeing the world, not just
Staying in the 5-star resorts everywhere you're going.
Right. You're seeing, different ways of life and different perspectives. And I think that can be really beneficial. I've even thought of like when Kai turns 18, instead of him going to college, like letting him travel for a year, travel the world.
Yeah.
So then he can, I think that would be such a great learning experience.
Like find himself.
But also it's just with everything, it's balance and
it's not black and white.
It's not black and white.
We keep saying that.
Yeah.
It really isn't. Someone else also said this. It's funny because 2 different women said being superwoman. She said being able to handle everything, aka being superwoman. I swear to God, the people that I know who on the outside are doing it all, that in my industry, when I would sit down on the table with someone for 30 minutes to an hour doing a service on them, we got deep. Not one of them was happy. They were the ones who did it all and had it all, but they would be crying on my table. Sarah used to always like make fun of me because like, I'd be in the room with someone for 30 minutes and we'd both come out crying. And she's like, what the fuck do you guys talk about in there? Like, what is going on? And I'm like, well, it started out an eyebrow wax. But like, I got to know people on a deep, deep, deep level. So if anything, I know firsthand because of my own life and experience that sometimes the people who look like they have it all together are the ones struggling the most.
Yeah, for sure.
I've talked to them. I've been that person. I've witnessed those people. So just because you're doing it all, and like, who are you doing it all for?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And what's interesting, and I've noticed it with you, not anytime recently, but in the past, a lot of people that are like that, So let's say they're really stressed that they're doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
So then you give them a lifeline and you're like, well, have you asked your husband to help you clean the house? And they're like, well, no, he wouldn't do it right.
Right.
Or no, I'm not going to let him, decorate this because they won't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, you have to learn to let
go
of your need of control.
Yeah.
You can't control everything.
Yep. So. We were just talking about this the other day I was talking about with a friend because she was talking about how she is like so OCD about like her Christmas trees.
That's what I was meaning by you is your fucking Christmas trees.
Yeah. And I was like, and I used to be that way. And it didn't happen overnight.
No.
The change didn't happen overnight. But let me tell you, every year it's gotten a little less extreme, a little more relaxed. Like Jason would make fun of me because like we had the pretty tree and we had the ugly tree, and don't you dare put those handmade ornaments on my pretty tree. This is the pretty pink one. I wouldn't even let my kids decorate it because they would put the things in the wrong place.
And you did that with me.
I did.
Yeah.
But again, that was 2 years ago.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
little by little, I have gotten so much better. So
Yeah.
like last year, I let Elle put the decorations on, and I didn't go behind her and move them.
Yeah.
That's when you and I did our tree. Like,
Yes.
I didn't go behind her and move anything. I was like, well, there's a little cluster right there that's about my daughter's height, and they're all clumped together, but I'm going to leave it and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And this year, we didn't even do an ugly tree, and I let them put their ugly ornaments on my pretty tree.
I think that's amazing because here's what I think about Christmas too. I think Christmas should also be kind of ugly.
Yeah.
It should be messy, and like you should like when we grew
I want my kids to enjoy.
Right.
Like I'm like, it's a tradition. Help me put this tree up. But then if I'm like bitching at them the entire time because they're not doing it right, they're not going to have good memories of that, and they're not going to enjoy it.
Right. Right. And we've gotten so into the aesthetic of things.
Yeah, fuck that.
But I'm like, the point of Christmas is so the kids can put ornaments on the Christmas tree and, kind of it'd be fun.
Yeah. I've come a long way.
Yeah, you have. But yeah, I put something on the tree. I put an ornament on the tree, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to move it just over here.
Like I'm that person who like takes a step back and looks at it and squints my eyes to like see if there's any holes in it. And then I like step back in and I move things around. But I'm not that bad anymore.
Yeah. And
so this is what I was telling this person. I was like, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens little by little. And even Jason was like bragging about me letting the kids put things on the tree this year.
Well, and when you really think about it, it's not that deep.
It really isn't.
It's when you're on your deathbed, are you going to be like, you know what? I really regret letting my kids decorate a tree and it looked funky as fuck.
Yeah.
No.
So the aesthetics of everything is
that's
just
like
really
that's going to be a good memory. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
If anything, it's going to be a wonderful memory.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Pulling all-nighters, that'll fall into the workaholic category. Being the breadwinner, it's not the flex you think it is. And I can say this now. I could have said it before, but I think for a long time, my husband and I were equals in the money financial department. And now that I'm not working, we're not. But I do so much more now than I ever had the capacity to do before. Like I do way more running around with the kids, way more cleaning and cooking. And I don't think I ever aspired to be that. I never wanted to be like the stay-at-home housewife, the stay-at-home mom. I always wanted to work and make my own money. I swear to God, this is harder. I'm not saying the other one wasn't hard also. They were both hard in very different ways. When I was the workaholic, I missed a lot of my kids' field trips, and I missed a lot of their after-school activities, and I missed out on a lot of things, and I'm getting to do those things now, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. I like doing this so much better, but I feel just as busy as I did before.
Yeah.
So it's like the trade-off is like being the whole breadwinner. Like, yes, my husband is now the breadwinner of the family, but like what I do is also priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can say the same thing.
I
you agree.
Right. Well, it's when when Kai first came into our lives, I had 2 weeks off.
Not a lot of time.
No. And it's not a lot of time to form a bond with a child. And it's changed a lot. And now I get to take him to the park. We do have a lot of bonding time. Like, he is very close to both his mom and his dad. And I love it because I'm like, I'm getting to raise my child.
And this is in no way saying anything to the moms who are also working.
Yes. I feel like too, like
it's different.
Yes. I feel like sometimes you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
100%.
Whatever you do as a woman.
This is just with that whole breadwinner thing.
Right.
I am okay now that I am not bringing in money and feeling equal to my husband because I believe that what I am doing has value.
Yeah.
So much value.
Yeah.
So both of them,
well, and I understand wanting to go to work and have a break to then come back and be a better parent. Like, It is very dependent on the family, the situation, the mom, all of that. So.
Ali Wong is a comedian.
I know her.
Who, like, when she went back to work after having her baby, and people are like, "You came back to work so soon?" She was like, "If I didn't, my baby would be in the dumpster. Like, I have to miss her to love her."
Yeah.
Like,
I get that.
So I get that too. And sometimes it's just a different kind of hard because I am overwhelmed and I don't get breaks the way that I used to. Like, work used to be my break from my kids. And now I don't get that the way that I used to. Yeah. So it's a different kind of hard.
Yeah.
You already said this, never changing yourself or your opinions. Somebody, that was one of them. Thinking you know everything and not willing to learn from anyone else. That's kind of the same thing, but I want to say Aristotle, I think, is who said this. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And I think there's a lot of people out there, and my husband used to be one of those people who thought that he couldn't learn anything from me because I didn't have a college degree. And I'm like, you could actually learn so fucking much from me if you were open to learning from me. But you think because you're smarter, I have nothing to show you or to offer you, and you have nothing to learn from me.
Smarter in one way.
Right. This is back to that IQ and emotional intelligence thing. Like, and I think he would say now, like, I've learned a lot from you, which he has.
Oh, totally.
He would say that.
Yeah.
Being happy all the time. We already said that. Being enmeshed with immediate family.
That's a hard one.
Let me bring something up that somebody said to me a couple of years ago, and it bothered me and I didn't say anything, but it stuck with me because several years ago I didn't have a relationship with my family, and it's still very strained. But they were talking about meeting someone who didn't have meeting a guy who didn't have a relationship with his family. And she said it was a red flag.
I've heard that so many times. People have said that to me. Like, they're not close with their mom and dad, so I'm judging them.
It's a red flag.
I'm like, how is that a red flag? You have no idea what happened to them, and they can't help how they grew up in this situation. I was like,
don't think it's a red flag at all.
I hate that so much, because I was that person who got judged for that.
Yeah.
Because people would say, I don't know, she doesn't have a dad.
Yeah.
So you're putting that on me?
Right.
Like, literally go fuck yourself.
Right. I just think that, like, being enmeshed with your family is not the flex that you think it is. And I'll even take it back. Even though my relationship with my family was very strained, I saw my husband's family and was just like, wow, what a great family.
They're together.
They have, like, monthly family dinners, and little did I fucking know that it was the most toxic family system I have ever witnessed in my entire life.
Oh, I would argue that there are so many family systems where they're toxic as fuck.
Yeah.
The dynamics are so toxic, and then they stay together because that's what you do.
Yeah. And looking
No
back,
one breaks the pattern. No one breaks the cycle.
and when you do, you get outcast. So, it's just interesting because I was the black sheep and the outcast of my family, and I was seeking that like family structure, and then I thought I found it and realized it was even worse than what I had growing up. So that's not a flex. Like, it's great if you're close with your family. It's just not the flex that, like, it's not a red flag if you're not.
Right.
I don't think.
No.
There's a story there.
100%.
And I want to know it. There's 2 more. Do we have time? We'll go through them quickly. Somebody said, wearing expensive clothes or overpriced sneakers. And I'm so sorry, but I feel a little bit attacked.
You are a sneaker hoe.
I'm a sneakerhead.
Oh my God.
But I agree to an extent. It is not a flex to have the designer shit. I understand that. And I will also say most of my shit comes from Amazon. And I used to be a Lululemon only girl.
Yeah.
So I understand what this person is saying. I am always finding good shit on Amazon. These sweatpants are the best sweatpants I've ever owned, and they came from Amazon. They are not a name brand. If anything, I prefer like Amazon shit over name brand stuff.
Yeah.
Now, that's not how I used to be.
No.
But I don't know if I can give up my sneakers.
That's okay.
Because listen, I'm healing. I'm not healed. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I love my sneakers. I can't help it.
And here's the thing. I'm
not into designer purses.
Right.
I'm not into like designer label clothes.
I've got designer purses.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I agree with what this person's saying.
Yeah.
It's not a flex.
Yes. Right. Correct.
You can have high quality things that aren't designer.
Right.
You really can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know. You got anything to add to that? I just felt a little bit of tap.
No, I think it's very valid. I think you can still have those things and maybe still be humble about them.
Yeah.
So,
well, and like the purse thing, like I have friends who like designer. It's just I never gave a shit about designer purses. Like I will carry stuff from Target or Amazon. I don't care about that. It's not the thing I care about.
Right. And what I'll say is I don't have many. I did it because I earned it.
And I've had somebody say that to me before too.
It was like
I'm like, I don't want it because everybody else has it. I want it because I can afford it now.
Right.
And that makes sense too.
Yeah.
It's not because like everybody else has it and I want it.
Right.
Even if it is that, who cares?
Right.
Okay. But I get that. All right. And the last one, we could honestly do an episode on this, but it's like being a good friend and loyal, but without being honest. It's not a flex.
Ah.
This is the last one.
Without being honest?
Without being honest.
I'm going to add to that.
Okay.
People who like aren't honest with you, but then they like will gossip about you behind your back and think that they're a good friend. Mm-hmm. And they don't tell you what they're really thinking. Mm-hmm. I can't fucking stand that. I would much rather you come and say something to me, even if it's like, oh shit, well, I didn't know you were feeling that way, than just gossip behind my back and I'd have no idea you're talking about me.
I will try to give an example without giving details.
Okay.
A friend who I would also consider a very proud people pleaser because everybody loves this person. Said something to me last year about I thought we were good friends and I was like, you've never been my friend. Like you've talked shit about me behind my back. Like you'll tell my husband like things about me. So you've never been my friend, but you're a person who collects friends and is the people pleaser and you're everybody's friend. A friend to everyone is not a friend. Mm-hmm. And even in that in this person and some of their friendships, This is where I struggle because are you loyal to the people that you've known since you were 12 years old? Your idea of being loyal to them, absolutely you are. But like you are letting these people come to you and bitch about their lives and bitch about their wives and the things that are going on in their lives. And you're like listening to them and you're letting them vent to you. And then they leave and you're like, God, that person's a mess. Like he is doing A, B, C, and D. And you didn't say that one time to that person. You just let this person come over and vent and bitch and get drunk, and you just listened and listened and listened. And not once did you ever look at this person and say, okay, but what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, why did she react that way? What are you doing to contribute to this? You're not being honest with this person. And literally as soon as they leave, you're talking about how much of a mess he is. Yep. That's not loyalty.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. That is not loyalty. You're not telling, you're not holding this. And again, you don't have to hold everybody accountable, but like you consider this person a friend because you've known him since you were like 10 years old or however long. Like I'm saying him, her too. Like if you are not being honest with this person, you're not being as loyal as they think you are.
Yeah. There's a girl that I went to high school with, and all of these women from my hometown were talking about her drinking and how it was a problem. But it was in a way of like, oh my God, yeah, she was such a mess last night. So-and-so had to drive her home. Oh my God, she threw up and did this, ABC. And I'm thinking, and this was after I did my mushroom journey. So I'm like, so all of you guys are partying with her or around her while she's drinking and on that level, and watching her self-destruct, but not saying maybe the next day, like, hey, are you okay? Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little worried about you, and I'm like, I want you to be all right. You don't say any of that, but then you're coming to me and telling me all of the stories about how she was a fucking shit show.
Right.
Like, you are so not a friend.
Right.
Because if that were me, I would hope someone, and I know the people that I have who are in my front row now, they'd be like, girl, I love you, but like, that was really unhealthy. Like, I'm a little worried about you, or I'm a little worried about what you're doing or how you're living, or, you know, that's what I want. And I've posted a lot of this because I am that friend who is honest.
Yeah.
And I feel like those types of friends often get a lot of flack. And again, you have to say it in the right way, and delivery matters. I can't stress that enough. But I also think that the underrated friends are the ones who will tell you what you need to hear to your face with love.
With love.
Because they love you and they want you to do well.
Yeah.
So when you're not, they want to talk to you about it because they want you to do big things, and they want you to, you know, live a life of peace, and they want you to be successful, and they want you to grow and evolve. And like, when you're self-sabotaging, they're going to tell you that you are. They're not just going to think it and then say it behind your back or not say anything at all. I'm just saying, I feel very passionate.
Holy shit.
I feel very passionate about this one.
Yes, you can step down off the soapbox now. But like, that's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
But I do think though that those types of friends, they're very underrated, and they do get a lot of flack because maybe the other person isn't willing to hear it or whatever.
Well, and if anything, all you're doing is enabling.
Yeah.
And that's not a good friend. Mm-mm. Like, you were enabling this person's behavior by letting them continue doing it without saying, hey, Sharon, I don't know. I think you're kind of creating this problem, and there is something you can do about it. And, you know, you're not really doing it. And I'm worried about you.
Yeah. That's
a friend.
That is a friend.
That's a friend.
Yes.
So being the friend who's loyal, but like without being honest, like
that's not loyal.
That's not loyal. You're not loyal. That's the thing. You think you're loyal because you've been their friend. It's not loyalty.
Yeah. To me, it's not about time. It's about the quality of that friendship. So
Whew. That was it. That was a lot. We were like, let's keep it under 45. Here we are.
An hour and 45.
My bad. Well, we had a lot of people message us, and
listen, we had a lot of shit to say.
So, yeah. Next time you think you're flexing, maybe do a little reflection and say, is this really a flex, or is this something that like I always looked or I thought was like a really good quality to have? Or is this just a really bad coping skill? Whoops, got your coping skill. All right, that's all we got.
I'm about to pee my pants.
Okay, gotta let you go. To all of our listeners, if you've ever experienced anything like this, or you are growing and healing and learning that like maybe the thing that you thought was a really cool thing isn't, like let us know in the comment section, whatever. And for everybody else, stay curious, be open. We'll see you on the other side.
Bye.